We are live. I'm coming to you from a sweltering United Kingdom where we are in the third heat wave of the summer and it's barely July. Welcome everybody to episode 6 of the AI Analyst. We're building Ridge AI. Before we introduce our amazing guest, I'll just remind you, my name is Andy Cotgreave. I've been doing this for a long time. I used to be at Tableau, but I've now found my own company, How to Speak Data. I'm a book writer, got 2 bestsellers out there. I've got a great Substack you can subscribe to. And I speak a lot about my thoughts on AI, BI, and history and philosophy and biology. And in fact, any topic that somehow relates to the world of a data analyst. And I love doing it, which is why we do this show. And I'm trying to bring to you all the new voices. And one of those new voices is an old colleague and great friend of mine, Ellie Fields. Ellie, welcome to the show. Would you like to say hi and introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Andy. Hello, and I'm somebody who loves listening to Andy talk about the industry and data and all the things. Right now, I'm co-founder and CEO at Ridge AI. And prior to that, I was at Tableau for many years, over a decade, way longer than I thought I would be. I spent a lot of time with a lot of our customers, a lot of products, launched Tableau Public, worked with Tableau Online and so on. Left there and led product and engineering at a mid-market SaaS company called SalesLoft, where we were customers of companies like Tableau. We didn't end up buying Tableau. We ended up building things ourselves. And I found that there was a huge gap in the ability of companies to deliver great analytics to their customers. So when I left there, I got started on Ridge AI, and we can talk about that later.
Yeah, well, we're going to dive into the products a little bit later, but I think the themes we're going to talk about are embedded analytics. I'll say why I say it with a smile. Build or buy, and how we link data and action, right? That is something Ellie and I spent many a long beer talking about, right? So it's a really key challenge. So, Ellie, you've started Ridge AI. As we've talked about it, and you go to the site, you're thinking deeply about embedded analytics. At Tableau, this was a mantra for years, and it never seemed to take off at Tableau. So what's so important about embedded? What has been missing, and what does the industry need to do to help customers get there?
Yeah, thanks, Andy. I mean, first of all, it's a terrible name, embedded analytics. What does it mean, and why should you care? Like, what is that even all about? To me, it just means putting data where the work is. And you mentioned data and action. There are a lot of people who would use data, who don't, because they don't want to go to some product and learn how to use it and do all the things. In my last job, we served salespeople and sales managers with our product. And salespeople are plenty smart about data. If you give them data where they're working that's helpful in their job in the moment, they will absolutely use it, and they'll use it well. If you say, hey, go log into this place, learn all these things, spend a bunch of time, you're probably glad if your salespeople don't do that, because it's not what they should be doing. And as an industry, I think we've been in this mode of, you go over here to get your data, you go over here to get your analytics. And if you do that a lot, we call you an analyst. But I think a lot of us, and I suspect you fall into this camp, think data is just broadly useful in the world for organizations and conversations and people. And it shouldn't be that way. It shouldn't be this walled garden. It should be like video. It's where you need it, when you need it, in the interface that you need it, and it works well, and it feels good, and it's fluid and interactive. So to me, I think about all of that when the words embedded analytics come up.
Yeah, one of the saddest stories I remember in the last few years working at Tableau, we were working with a UK government office or department, and they showed us a chart, and basically it was visitors to Tableau server, right? So they'd been really excited because they were rolling out just plain dashboards to get their department like data savvy and curious about data, and they had this chart showing like visits to the server going up, right? And they were like, and we're poised, Andy, we're poised to go large and do like the second generation of actual, deeper actionable dashboards. And then they showed visits to the server did this. It was literally a cliff, nothing. It's like, Andy, this is what happened. The IT team saw this growing new server and implemented two-factor authentication, right?
Yeah.
And that was just enough. I killed everybody. Now, I have nothing against governance, but friction, I mean, it's hard enough alt tabbing or command tabbing to switch to a different app, right? That's hard enough, right? But then every bit of friction gets that out of the way. So that's where you're trying to go, right? To solve, put the chart so those people don't have to go to Tableau server and log on. It's just in the flow of work.
In a governed way. And a lot of our customers are product companies trying to get value metrics out to their end customers. So if you think about a company that ships software, they get hired to do a job. I'm a big fan of the jobs to be done framework. If you're familiar with that, Clayton Christensen's. And you don't hire a product because you want some kind of a feature. You're hiring a product to get a job done. In my last role, people would hire our product to shorten their sales cycles and increase their funnel and make their sales process more effective and more efficient. And so when you're presenting analytics to your end users, you want to show them you've done that job. You want to prove the value.
Yeah.
Hey, before you were using us, your sales cycle was this long. And then by being a little bit more efficient and prompting things with agents and so on, it got a lot shorter. And you know what? That's good for you, but it's also good for your customers because customers want to get things done quickly if they're gonna go ahead and do it. A lot of our customers are doing that and they want to put it in product, and it needs to be governed. You still need customers to get their own data and so on, but it's such an essential communication vehicle to be able to talk about the value that you're presenting to end customers. And data is like that in so many ways. Like data is such an integral part of what we do that putting it, like you said, putting it over there somewhere past a few hurdles, people get busy. I get busy. Everybody gets busy, and going to do the other thing just it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I want to dig into the data is integral bit, but actually I'm going to just go on a little tangent here because you talked about jobs to be done. I mean, that has surely been a mantra that is really important. Buy something for a job. We are in a weird world of AI right now. Do you sort of get this sense? So not products that incorporate AI like Rich AI, but right now I hear about so many businesses. They're like, just go and use AI. You know, we are measuring you on how much you use AI. It's like, why? Right? Yeah. Do you see that? We seem to have forgotten that jobs to be done is a good principle.
Yeah, I mean, it's what was token maxing that came up for a hot minute until companies started getting $500 million in charges. It's pretty ridiculous. I love that companies and people are curious and open. We don't always see that. I mean, if you compare AI adoption to cloud adoption, it took a long time to convince companies that maybe it could be secure in the cloud, and you know, it could be all the things. With AI, it's the exact opposite. Like you said, people are jumping in and saying, "I need AI," and I've had people say that to me in this role and in my last one. Hey, I need AI, and I think it's part of our job to walk them back and say, "Great, what problem are you solving? What are you trying to do?" And that's true in products. It's true in data as well. I mean, we've always had people say, "I need a dashboard." It's like, well, great. What are you trying to communicate? What's your job to be done? Yeah.
Does that? Right. So tell me more about how that right. Sorry, I'm going down the path now. How does that impact how you build a product? Right. Because in the old days, we'd go, "Oh, I've got a feature." I remember you and I worked on metrics, or you worked on metrics. The first version of metrics, and it's like, well, we've got this idea, we write a prototype and a spec and iterate, right? And because the underlying technology was code and it was pretty stable. Whereas now the underlying technology you have access to is massively changing every week, right? So is it a challenge bringing AI into a product?
I would separate products. I think there's this new generation of AI native products, and I'll say nobody should buy anything because it's AI native or AI anything. It is about the job to be done. But I think what at least I'm trying to communicate when I say that word is that we stepped back, looked at the job to be done, looked at the technology available at the time, because that's one of the things that happens in tech markets is new technology becomes available, and that can introduce great changes as we've seen. And we've said there's a different and novel way to solve this problem given the tools at hand. It still has to solve the problem. You know, how does it change how we build? Definitely everything from the ground up. but at the core, you still have the job to be done. I have this talk track I keep going through my mind, or maybe a tension I keep seeing in the market where it's like, well, there's something that comes out in AI and it's so cool, and you want to bring it in and you want to be using it, but you still have to use the old frameworks, and they still are relevant. In fact, when you can do everything and go kick off 100 agents and have them code everything in the world, it's even more important to be disciplined about the job you want to do, about the thing you're trying to achieve. And so we try to walk that line.
Do you mean the humans or the process frameworks that still have to be adhered to? Is that when you use the word frameworks?
I think about kind of the conceptual frameworks, right? Again, jobs to be done, great example. What are you hiring this product to do? What is the problem you want to solve? What is the business benefit or other benefit you want to achieve? And the AI should still be in service of that. I mean, at the end of the day, it's still a tool. We shouldn't be buying AI just to buy AI. I completely agree with that. So we try to take a step back and think about how we would solve the problem given anything possible in the new world. And then as we build, we're obviously using all the AI tools and practices and playing with them and refining them and talking with others in the industry. So, it's a combination both of being able to think about the problem completely differently, which I think is the biggest lever, and then just build very, very quickly.
Yeah. It's definitely a thrilling time to be in the industry. I think it's slightly nerve-wracking for anybody who's a data leader or chief data officer, because the products are just like, wow, we're trying our best. What's changed in the technology of embedding that has made building Ridge more attractive, or making Ridge easier to build or easier to consume? How's the non-AI tech changed?
Yeah. So we talked about the sexy stuff. So I'll talk about the other huge transformation, which is
it's all sexy, Ellie.
It's all sexy, but the browser-based technology. And so again, it's like embedded analytics. Why do I want that? Why do I care?
Yeah.
Quick tech history lesson. Most of the time, if you put analytics embedded in a product or on the web or in a wiki page or something, typically what's happening is when the user does something, the request goes all the way back to a server somewhere and then comes back to the user. So compute is elsewhere. What browser-based technology does, and these are, people may have heard of things like WebAssembly and DuckDB. Mosaic is actually something my co-founder Jeff Hare has created along with Dominic Moritz, which does a lot of pre-aggregation to support this as well. Anyway, all of those words are a bit wonky. All it means is that we're all sitting here with laptops as we're doing analytics. The laptop actually has quite a bit of compute power. And with browser-based technology, you can actually use that compute power from a browser tab and make sure it's governed and secure and all of those things. And so it's pretty amazing what you can do. I personally believe that performance and interactive performance was one of the huge inhibitors of analytics, sharing analytics. I mean, we'd have customers try to go from 19 seconds to 11 seconds to optimize their queries, which is crazy, because we sit a human in front of a web page and we think everything should be in milliseconds. And then we say, but wait 11 seconds for this data, or if you're lucky, maybe 3 or 4 or 5. And we expect the same human to deal with those things the same. With browser-based tech, we can actually do interactive performance in the milliseconds. And it's completely game-changing.
Yeah, my kids can barely bear to watch a TikTok that's longer than 11 seconds, right? So
Exactly.
It's like when they get in the industry, it's like as dinosaurs, it'll be ridiculous. Actually, in fact, so talking about technology, right? Does that mean, so this was a bugbear of old Tableau days. Can you draw scatter plots with more than 5,000 marks on them?
Yes.
What?
Although I will also say that on a screen, you can only see so many. I mean, you're limited by pixels and things like that. But
because that was always, it was always like this hard coded limit in the old code libraries. It's like, well, you can build a scatter plot, but you can't show all the data.
And that's, what not to geek out too much, but what Mosaic gives us is a lot of the things that you need to do in analytics is aggregate your data as you show scatter plots or bar charts or what have you. And another thing that's changed, and this is the Mosaic innovation, is you used to have to go and pre-aggregate that stuff. So in my last role, we bought Databricks, great product. We put Cube on top. Cube's awesome, great, but we used Cube to do a bunch of pre-aggregation so that we could serve analytics in our product at some kind of reasonable speed. And we had to say, okay, well, we know that we're going to aggregate on salesperson. So let's do all that pre-aggregation in Cube, and you have data engineers doing it and so on. And then you know, and if you want to change that, you got to go back and do it again. And you're looking days or weeks or fit it in the roadmap or what have you. Mosaic does a lot of that aggregation on the fly, and it's really amazing.
And brilliant. And just remind me. So Mosaic is your unique USP underlying tech. Is that right?
Mosaic is one of the building blocks we build on. It's open source.
Right.
And then we have a number of pieces, obviously, we built on top. But Mosaic is Mosaic, DuckDB, and WebAssembly are really the enabling technologies here.
Right. Oh, that's cool. All right.
On the product side.
So something we were talking about as we were preparing for this was, you know, as vibe coding and Claude Code and all those apps become so powerful, and you're using open source tech. I mean, can I not just go and build Ridge myself, Ellie? I don't need to pay you, right? You know, how are you seeing people change their build v buy conversation, or how do you feel about the build v buy conversation now? Anybody can write any code in theory.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've loved some of the work that you've come out with this and some of the thinking. I mean, people should be asking the question, but I'll break it down into three ways. There's how do you generate the analytics? How do you answer the question you're trying to answer or show the value you're trying to show? Claude will always give you something. Now, whether it's good is a question. Somebody who's good with analytics and knows where they're going and best practice and so on can bend it to their will. And usually that's a half an hour to an hour at least of time. And in a way, this is a great thing because it does mean that people can get, you know, non-analysts can get all kinds of new things out, which is great. They can also fall into some pitfalls. I think Claude is fantastic for ad hoc directional stuff if you just need to answer a question. But say you even get something you'd want to share to, say, your customers. That's step one. I think the next step, and one of the things that we do at Ridge, is we try to apply AI to the consumption experience and really give an executive level experience. It's not just the sub-second performance, but dashboards, while brilliant, visual data, you know, so important for people to see and understand what they're doing. It always had the problem of not being able to let you ask that next question. And so we paired a data agent with a dashboard on the same set of data so that you get that overview, the visual grounding, all of that. And you also get the ability to ask these long tail questions. And one without the other is problematic in different ways that we can go into. But this is one of the huge breakthroughs of AI, is like, why can't you just ask a question anywhere of your data in a governed way, in a way that is thought through. Now, on that AI data agent, we've added a massive harness, right? So validating the schema, validating the SQL, making sure that the chart that comes out is best practice. There are other things that we do in there. And all of that can be kind of hard to build if you just want to build it. In fact, I've talked to product teams who say, yeah, we're doing that. We have it in our backlog. We've had it in our backlog for 6 months. We haven't really made it. And a few who have shipped it and say, well, we shipped it, but the experience is poor and it's very buggy. And it's always, so anyway, that's the second thing. The third thing is deployment. So even should you get a great Claude dashboard and maybe you give it some ability to ask and answer questions, you need to deploy it in a governed way. You need to potentially partition data by different customers. You need to refresh data. Claude loves to pull in libraries under the hood that you then have to and maintain and make sure don't have security issues. And then you get down to performance. And so I think that's how I think about it. It's can you build it? And do you want to spend the time building it? You know, can you attach things like a data agent and give a really rich, high-level experience? And then can you deploy it? And can it be performant and safe and up to date and all of those things?
It's almost, maybe I won't build a competitor for you. It's almost like there's actual complexity in a scalable, reliable, trustable application.
Amazing.
Yeah, who knew? I I actually asked Claude in a one shot to try and write Tableau the other day.
Oh,
It was hilariously good, but it was so shallow. Anyway, unsurprising. Yeah. Anyway, but it did make a drag and drop shelf interface. It was that could connect to any CSV on your file. Anyway, it was pretty good. But yeah, clearly, terrible, really. So go back then. Data is integral. I mean, we've been in this industry 15, 20 years, and I've been to some external events this week from other vendors, and there's an extent to which I now watch those keynotes and the events. The CEO comes on stage and talks about the challenge of data and the new generation. It's like, man, it's the same script. It's almost the same script.
Yeah.
What so just talk about that. Data is integral, but why does the script not change? Is that customers' faults? Is it vendors' faults? Is it just that shit gets more complicated? What do you think?
I just think we haven't solved the problem yet. I mean, you and I can talk about how data is integral, and it can help us understand all kinds of things in the world around us and in our organizations. But then, you walk around the world and you say, who's actually doing it? Who's using it?
Mm-hmm.
And very few, right? I mean, you definitely get the analysts. They get into things. You get some surface level data that is often shared, on the web or with execs or what have you. Most of the people who are using that data are frustrated because they can't get the answers that they want. The experience is often poor. It's hard for somebody to create analytics and tell a true value story or the story that they're trying to tell. I mean, when Tableau, I think it was just such a revolution when it came out, and credit to the founders of that company. And we all, I think, enjoyed being there and being part of that journey. And Tableau took it from, you basically have to code or learn a really crusty tool like Business Objects to a drag and drop. And that made it so much more accessible. But you look at even building in Tableau, and I would look at the numbers of people who are creating, and it would be, 1 in 100 or 1 in 1,000 deployment, right?
Yeah.
And then you look at what you have to learn. You have to learn best practice and all the Tableau interface, and then the table calcs. I mean, look at the body of knowledge out there about learning Tableau, and that's great that it's so enabling, but it's still very limiting. So I think we just didn't accomplish the goal. I mean, what do you think?
No.
Why do you think it sounds the same?
I was talking to a cliche you see in keynotes, in data keynotes, is the customer wants to be here, and there's a chasm, and here's their vision, right? It's like, yeah, okay, I've seen that in many vendors' keynotes, and it's true, but it's like, well, whose fault is that? It's not really the customers because they're trying to implement things. It could be the vendors because, vendors, we hype things up, right? There's a fine line in marketing. We were both in marketing between selling a product and selling a vision. And if you sell too strong a vision, then that chasm looks insurmountable and puts huge pressure on data people, customers. And so the way I express it is, I go into history lessons right here. The first time humans put sticks on mud was in cuneiform, right? And they were collecting data about market transactions. So they had some technology, they collected some data, and then I bet within a month someone went, oh, I wish I could aggregate this and know which day of the week is the best for transactions. But you couldn't do that, right? And we've just done that ever since, right? So Excel spreadsheet, 100 years ago we started, aggregating data and doing punch cards, and then Excel comes along. And so there's just this human continuum where with the data, technology, and ideas, so a gap that continues. So when I look back at Tableau, it's like, you alluded to it, right? We couldn't do drag and drop. Now you could do drag and drop, and that pushed everybody forwards, but it gave us more ideas. Like, well, now I want to do this. Now we've got, AI, the promise of AI, so that's going to push us forward to do more. But now we want to do this, right? So I just think, so I don't like the chasm cliche, because I think we're all part of a continuum. Vendors are some vendors are more responsible than others for that. But more data and tech just gives us more ideas, and that's humanity.
I think that's true, and I just think the experience is poor. I mean, It's just you look at data on the web, if you go spend an hour kicking around websites, you'll find images of data, you'll find terrible, terrible
Yeah.
presentations of data, and so there's not just that mechanism of people wanting more when they see more, but there are people like you and I that have seen data presented really well and interactively in a way that
Mhm.
can move you, that can be part of a story. I
Yep.
mean,
Yep.
newspapers have won Pulitzers partly because of the data and it as a piece of their stories, and then you go look at where the state of data is in in most companies and on the web today, and you're like, "This is"
Yeah.
I would use another word if we weren't live, but this is extremely poor, right? Like, this is
Extremely poor.
it's
It's
a swear word, like, it's just not there.
Yeah, and I think that the worst outcome with AI tools is that it's like, look, anybody can use Gemini, Claude, ChatGPT, upload a CSV and ask detailed data questions, but
Right,
then these products have no context, no governance, no scaling,
right.
no they have generic special knowledge, right? But they're gonna but that I'm doing data analysis, boss, and I've done it,
Yeah,
and it said this. It's like
yeah.
really.
And
No.
And I will actually say there's a wonderful use case for that, right? When you don't wanna do something heavyweight and you're just like, "I got a CSV and I wanna ask 3 questions." I wouldn't necessarily bet my company on that, I wouldn't make the
No.
biggest decisions because you gotta like you said, there's issues, it's not governed and so on. But if you really just wanna grab a CSV and you don't wanna spend half an hour in Excel or Tableau or some other product and you just
Yeah.
give me 3 or 4 questions, like, it's a
Yeah.
great new tool. It's wonderful.
And yes, right, and people need the literacy to understand that risk matrix. It's like it's okay here, but don't bet your company on it.
Right, or if you wanna share something and have a great experience, if you want it to be governed, if you want context, like, these are all things
Yeah,
that you're not gonna get with Claude and a CSV in 5 minutes.
yeah. So I think that, I felt like we went down a rabbit hole, but somehow we stuck to our script of questions. That's fantastic. I think you've talked about the concept I was frustrated about was dead end dashboards. A great dashboard, we could build those in Tableau. I wrote
Yeah,
2 books about them. But if the user can't ask the subsequent question, sales are going up, sales are going down, churn rate is going up. If I can't ask why, then it's a dead end. And I
right.
think just Ridge is solving that by incorporating the agent, right, and giving that action. Is
Yeah,
that right? Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, and also creating, very usable performant dashboards. I think
Yeah.
I mentioned this earlier, I think performance has been something that just inhibited the growth of the industry and the use of data in general.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brilliant. All right. Well, we'll go on to a demo in a minute, but I just want to ask, a personal question, right? We've known each other a long time. What was it like? What was the moment when you were like, I'm going to build my own? And how did that feel? Committing to that decision.
That's a great question. Well, like I said, I was at Tableau for a long time, and part of the reason I went to a product company was to try and put data in action in a loop and do that and improve
Mm-hmm.
improve data in that case for salespeople. I left there after about 3.5 years. Wound down, transitioned the team, and so on. And I was expecting to take a bit of time off, quite a bit of time. Um, Personal context: I had 2 children along those 16 years, and I
Yeah.
never took more than about a week. I did take a little more for having them, but I was looking forward to just doing, taking my kids to school and spending some time.
Yeah.
And I looked at Jeff and I, my co-founder, got in touch, and I looked at what he had done with Mosaic, and I was like, he's just solved one of the biggest problems in data, which is performance, interactive performance.
Mm-hmm.
He has just nailed this thing, and it changes so much. Um, and so he and I started talking, and of course, AI. This was a couple of years ago now, a year and a half. So, of course, AI is out as well, and we were
Yeah.
starting to see the potential of using a data agent to ask the long tail, and I had these ideas about having watched so many people build Tableau dashboards and learn Tableau and build in other ways and use Excel. I thought we can guide people through this process with AI. Like, AI can actually help you uh, work at a different level of abstraction when you
Mm-hmm.
build, so that you're not
Mm-hmm.
saying, put this on the bar, put this on the X and this on the Y, but we have all this potential to solve some of these longstanding problems. And he and I were talking and talking about starting a company. And there was a moment where I thought, I can't do anything but start this company. These problems have bugged me for so long, and it bothers me that people can't use data and it's poor on the web. And so I talked to my husband about it, and like, I want to do this thing. It's not going to be, so lucrative and highly risky and all of that. And he's like, well, is it what you really want to do? I was like, I can't think about anything else right now. And he's like, well, let's go do it. You go do it. And so that's how I started it. And honestly, it's amazing to be able to tackle some of these problems. It's amazing to not be adding the next incremental feature, but really being able to think about how people use data at a really fundamental level and help them communicate value. And it's great.
Brilliant. Well, obviously we wish you a huge amount of luck with that. So that seems like a good time actually to segue, because let's see what the passion is building so far. Let's see all those answers to all those questions put into action. So I will share your screen. All right, you are on screen.
Great.
And if anybody has any questions, do type them in the chat. And also, if you want to go check out Ridge, please do. There's a QR code on the screen.
Okay. So let's talk about EV charging. No, just kidding. One of the things I want to call out is every single Ridge is made to be embedded. And so this is just a made-up website about EV charging. The data is real, actually. And you can see some of the performance that you can get here with
to clarify. So what we're looking at this is a mock-up page of EV charging, and what is on screen here, this bit is the embedded Ridge.
Yeah, this is what we call a Ridge. And we use the term for this visual element, the dashboard, plus the data agent. These two sit on the same backing set of data. Think about a gold data set. And so what you're not doing here is you're not going and spelunking through all your data and joining. It's not exploratory analytics. This is something that's been placed on the web to share this data with others. And so we can look at all these questions. This is our data agent on the right. And we can ask one of these questions. And what's happening in the background is we're actually using AI to build some SQL, but all of the computation is happening locally. And we've now got an answer to the question I just asked, which is which utilities are serving most of the EVs here. And we're able to kind of have this visual story on the left of EV growth, and in this case, in the state of Washington, where I live. And you can look at it in many different ways and so on. And then you can also ask the questions on the right. And I'll show you another example of that, because I think there's this one is not embedded, but like I said, everything's made to be embedded either natively or through iframes. And this is demonstrating the interactive performance. And so you can see, just as I'm selecting along the timeline, in this case, we're looking at some product analytics data.
Just do that again, because that's really cool.
It's really cool. I mean, this is the thing this is one of the things that just made me want to go solve this problem. And like I said, performance has just been such an inhibitor. And when you're doing it the legacy way and going back and forth to a server, you're kind of limited by physics. I mean, you've got to go over the wire. The server has to compute. By the way, it's much more expensive because you have to pay for all that server compute, and you have to make sure that the server can hit peak loads and so on. So it's part of the reason we're actually able to offer a very different pricing approach too, which we could talk about. But
sorry, this is happening in browser. This is happening in browser.
This compute is all happening in browser. And so we can.
Well, no, you don't need to go into the how, right? Okay.
Yeah, I won't go into the how, but you can look up some of those things like DuckDB is huge enabler, open source, WebAssembly, and so on. And then we can ask questions, right? So in this dashboard, this is about adoption of a product. We don't actually have failure rate in here, but in the gold backing data set that backs them both, we do have failure rate. And so we could ask questions about failure rate. I'm just going to take one of the pre-canned questions here and say, okay, well, which users have the biggest failure rate? In this case, we're seeing that happen. And one of the things that we've started to do is ask the question, why do these things have to be different windows? And so now what I can do is I can actually use the affordances that live in that live in the dashboard for the data agent if I link the views across. And I can be doing this kind of interactive analysis across one and the other. And you can see that. And right now we're getting the right kind of data, the right kind of approach for the questions that I've asked here. But the data agent can do any of these chart types, right? Heat maps. It can do scatter plots, and I can select anywhere, and the entire ridge is interactive. And so you don't end up with these things that I find with Claude sometimes, where I'll build a dashboard. I do that all the time in Claude just to see where they're at. And one of the views is interactive, but others aren't. And I don't know why they are or aren't. And if you're expecting, for example, your headline numbers to be updating and they're not, and you can make some poor decisions. But this interactivity is part of what we get from Mosaic.
Yeah, I've got a Substack post coming up about the UX problems I see in AI data agents, and one of the key problems is that disconnect from the agent. Oh, you've got an agent pane, you can build these charts, and it's like, oh, that's great, but then I've got something interactive, and if you're not doing what you're doing, then it's just a really disappointing user experience. So it's I love seeing this back up the two-way connection to those views.
Yeah, and I think this is where I think we have a lot of room to innovate on how people use data. It's not either or, right? Now, the problem with the data agent out of the gate is you don't have any context on the data. What are you looking at? What's in the data? What are the important trends? And if you're telling a story to somebody else, you don't get to frame that story, right? Typically, there's somebody who does know the data better. In our case, a lot of times it's a product company that understands kind of how the metrics work in their product and where the value is, and they want to communicate that value. And so you want to be able to tell that story, but then you want to give the end user that flexibility. So this is two of the big problems. One is the experience, right? Just the ability to ask natural language questions, have it feel fluid, be performant, having really an executive level experience. And the second thing that we're seeing here is just the ability to deploy it. And under the hood, you can refresh, partition by customers, and so on. But if it's okay, Andy, I'd love to show you the third big problem that we're solving and talk about that.
I'd love to see it.
Yeah. So this is our app. This is where you might come if you were building ridges for other people that you were going to share and embed. And so you can do a bunch of things, set your theme, add users and so on. But what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and add a ridge, this form factor of a dashboard plus a data agent. And I'll choose that same product adoption data we were looking at. And what we'll get is this highly performant preview, because we know that in the cycle of visual analytics, you need to see something before you can go to the next step. And if you're working with data, you need to verify, this is the right data. It's got the right things in here, and I can look at that. In our product, you can do some light transformations, things like casting and extending. Again, we think that a lot of that should be done lower in the data stack so that you've got your common joins and transforms and so on. But there are some things you can do. So I'm going to go ahead and click Create Dashboard. And now what you see come up on the left is what we call the build agent. And on the right, previously, we had seen the data agent. That was your Q&A. This is the build agent. It's going to help me build. I could add context, and you know what context does. We've all become familiar with context. But what I'm going to do instead is I'm just going to say, let's build. And I'm going to say, let's understand adoption by department. Or, maybe I sell by department. Maybe adoption happens in my product more by department, and I need to make sure that that's happening. The build agent, as soon as we loaded the data, actually inspected all this data, which, by the way, is about 220,000 rows and about 20 columns or so, and understands that it's about some kind of product usage. So we're already in the domain, right? It's not manufacturing data, it's not marketing data, it's product usage. And I've said I want to understand adoption. And so you can go in many directions with an analysis. What the build agent is going to do is actually try and walk me through and elicit the business context that it needs without forcing me to know how to build a dashboard. And so it's going to ask me. Go ahead.
Yeah. And well, in the you've given me early access to it, and I think that one of the things, the more demos you see of what vendors are doing with AI-based analytics is just short. Build me a dashboard of sales over time, and it's like, well, it's such a such a terrible way to demo a product, really, because that's not the real world, right? And then, but then they don't encourage the users in the product to be like, well, who's your user? What are they trying to do? And why are they trying to do that? Basic user story stuff. Whereas you've actually got that, you can't get past the build agent without addressing that, right? And so I applaud you for that. I think it's really good.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, we kind of think about a great consultant or analyst or somebody sitting next to you and helping guide you through, because while AI can do that, build me a sales over time dashboard so fast, you and I both know that so many times you end up with an artifact that doesn't get used because it was just, like you said, that it was too thin. Like you didn't actually get to the heart of what was being asked there. So that's what we're trying to dive into now. And this is a brilliant thing AI can do. It can raise the level of abstraction, right? Again, I don't need to know all the things. I don't need to know the bar chart and what's a line chart. I just need to know what I care about. So I'll continue here. It's asking me, what do you care about? You care about adoption by department. What does that mean to you? Well, it means how many actions are being recorded, and maybe I'll get a few more suggestions here. Maybe the action duration in minutes, sure. Actions per unique users potentially, and I'll say maybe unique users as well. So we're trying to solve to a degree the blank screen problem while we guide the user, so they know that these are common things somebody might do if they're trying to understand adoption.
The blank screen problem for anybody watching was something we experienced at Tableau all the time. It's like it opens to a blank screen, and if you haven't gotten comfortable with dragging and dropping blue things and green things onto random shelves, then you just have no idea what you're doing. And that was a problem.
Good luck. Yeah, I mean, you end up creating something that's terrible, and like this product is terrible.
Yeah.
And you get frustrated. I mean, it's hard. It's hard to work with data. I mean, again, this is part of the reason we've got this visual interface here. I can look at that and say, well, what's even possible in my data? What does this look like? Now the build agent is coming back, and it's finally going to ask me, what questions are you trying to answer with this artifact? Not what chart do you want, but what questions are you trying to answer? And Chris Stolte at Tableau used to always tell us a good dashboard answers questions, and so we'll choose some of these. A couple of these, maybe I want this one, but I really don't care about broken bound. Yeah, maybe I'll keep that.
But you can actually edit those prompts as well, right? Or those individual text boxes are editable as well, right? Which is nice as well. It's like if it's there, it's typable, and subtle little affordances and signifiers that give me the control as much as the AI has the control.
Exactly. Yeah, it's this tension of kind of suggesting and guiding, but then letting the user, with any reasonable analysis, there is so much you could do. You can't just pre-can it. And it's funny, I see sometimes these AI demos where someone says, like you said, I'm interested in sales. And then it's like, great, here's this massive dashboard with 100 things on it. They're like, well, I was actually interested in sales in Asia for a new product by these channels. It's like, well, you need to,
I mean, we've been in the build a dashboard demo. Clearly, I've been rabbiting on a bit, but we're what? It's 5 minutes into it. We haven't got a dashboard yet. What a terrible product, Ellie, right? Because your competitors have built 20 useless dashboards by now. But no, it's true. That was sarcasm for anybody, by the way. Try it.
I'm going to ask a correlation question here just to show you that it can do all kinds of different kinds of questions, and I'll go ahead and submit. So I've added 5 questions, and you'll see the build agent it's telling us what it's doing, and it's thinking about the things that it's elicited from me in context. And just pointed out again, I never at any point had to know anything about how to build a dashboard over here. I just had to know what are the things I want to know. And you'll start to see on the right coming in filters, and those filters are relevant to the questions I asked. And then we've got some headline numbers, some big numbers that are, again, relevant to the questions I asked, not failure rate, even though it's in the data, because I didn't ask about failure rate. I specifically left that out. And now we've got a dashboard that's performant and interactive out of the gate. I can do my my filters. I could change things around, and I'll show that in a minute. But I can also, you know, move these, play with them a bit, and everything is selectable and interactive out of the gate. So maybe I want to see the longest duration actions, right, or the shortest. And I can, you know, maybe I'm going to delete one of these. I could select any of these or change the title. But effectively, we've got a dashboard that what we're trying to get to is it's 95% there for you. You know, it's almost completely ready to go. You might change some things, like maybe I want a chart of active users instead of average actions. I could change that. Maybe I'll just try to, let's see here. Maybe we'll just color by department on this one, see how it does. You know, I can make these changes and then get to a point where I want to go and embed that. See that come back?
That's amazing.
Yeah. And while that's doing that, well, I'll show you. You can also click over here to the Explore. There, we've got that color in there now. But you can now click over to Explore. You get that data agent back, and you can see what your end users will see. You can get those questions. You can explore the data and ask what's happening. And we're looking at expanding this experience, of course, so that as you ask a question, you can potentially bring that into the dashboard if you'd want to bring that in. So all of these browsers success right there.
That's amazing.
This is the way that you would customize it. It doesn't have all the affordances and bells and whistles of a Tableau, and that is intentional because I think those can slow people down. And really what we're trying to do is keep them thinking at the business level, and then all the work in the background of what's a good practice, how might you represent this data, you know, how might you represent a different kind of data. Like we asked a correlation question, we get a scatter plot. If you asked a distribution question, you'd get a histogram. You know, we asked trend questions, we're getting these line charts over time. And that's part of what we're bringing to the table is somebody doesn't have to go take a course on best practices for data visualization. It is still very important, but we're encoding that for you.
But those courses were so much fun, Ellie.
Those courses were fun, and I hope some people still take them because they love them, but it shouldn't be a necessary prerequisite to work with data.
I absolutely agree. So okay, so this is amazing. So and then you would take the embed code and
then you would save it. Exactly.
And so just to get some practical questions, what data can you connect to?
So we connect
governance issues as well.
We connect to all different kinds of data, and basically you would create a connection, and then you would add a data set, and the data set is what backs the ridge. So if I connect to my Snowflake, obviously I don't want to bring all the data in right at the beginning, but I would then add data and you know, pull in a set of data from that Snowflake. And so you can refresh, you can partition. This is something you might do if you had multiple customers and each one needs to see their own data. You can theme things, etc. And then, as you said, you can kind of go and grab any of these and get some embed code, either an iframe or do it server embed.
Amazing. Yeah. All right. And then hopefully everybody watching, that's wet. Hopefully that's excited you. Wetted, is it? Well, I don't know what it is, but anyway. So QR code to go and right. Actually, no. Let me ask you, Ellie, what can people do right now? Also, what's pricing going to be? Tell me more about the practicality of product.
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely. What can people do right now? They can go to ridgedata.ai and they can sign up for the currently closed beta, and they'll get an email from me and suggest getting on a call, so that I can understand what they're trying to achieve and what kind of value they're trying to communicate and so on. We will be in GA in a few months, which means you can just go and get a trial. The trial lets you embed and do all the things, and so you can play around with it, try it out, etc. Pricing is really interesting. We are able to do some things with pricing that were not possible server-based. And I know those seem like they're not connected, but they are. When we were at Tableau, we would sell these contracts that were hundreds of thousands of dollars because you had to support all the viewers and what if everybody gets on a Monday morning. That's very different when you're using the user's software to compute. And so when a user comes and looks at one of these ridges, what happens is the data and the dashboard specification and all the things are kind of injected into their browser. And then like we talked about, the browser's doing all the compute. So you don't have to price it the same way. All that to say is that we're pricing by ridge. We're pricing by this form factor. So that if you need to get something live for your end customers or your executives and you're already doing a bunch of stuff and you don't want to rip and replace everything, you can spend about $9,600 annually and get one of these live and partition it by customer and so on. It's less than that if you don't need to partition, if you just need to get something live and everyone's seeing the same data. And you can embed it and so on. So that's the pricing, and it's possible to do that instead of charging hundreds of thousands of dollars because of the technology. And when I tell people that pricing, they're often like, that's way too low. But I'll tell you what we're trying to do is we really do have we do feel like we have a mission at this company, and it is to make data more usable and more ubiquitous and a bigger part of the world that we live in. And so we want to price this so that you can get something live. And then if it's great, you can do more and more and more. I personally think that, like I said, the market's been inhibited by the performance, the pricing structure, how heavyweight, how big all of this was. And so we're trying to make it really easy to go and get one of these live, share it out, put it in your product, share it with your stakeholders or on the web, and just get going.
Amazing. Wow. So GA, when was GA? Sorry.
End of the summer.
End of the summer. Right.
Yep.
When does right? Okay. Well, that's going to be great. Well, look, I think that's probably where we've got. If anybody has any questions and they want to type them in the next 30 seconds, go ahead. Otherwise, we're going to start wrapping up. So we've got the QR code up there to go, and obviously it's ridgedata.ai. Ellie, where can we find you?
You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm there quite a bit. Also out there on Reddit, and happy to talk with anyone about what you're trying to achieve with data and what it looks like.
Yeah, well, let's go find Ellie. Are you on Reddit? That's interesting.
I am on Reddit.
Reddit for a work life or personal life?
Both. I mean, I just think it's where some of the deepest answers come from. You know, there's a little LinkedIn is fantastic, but there's a little bit less self-promotion on there. You can find Ridge AI also on YouTube. We've got a small channel there. Cool. Don't do that much with it, but there's some good videos in there on those.
All in good time, right? When you've got a marketing team.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, Reddit's great for that. I always find you get a much more honest set of answers about people's views of BI products on Reddit than elsewhere. Yeah, indeed. Well, look, Ellie, thank you so much for taking the time out. It's ridgedata.ai. Go and check that out. We'll be doing more episodes of the AI Analyst in the future, but I hope if you've taken anything from this, you've understood why we're building Ridge AI. With that, enjoy the weather if it's a heat wave, or maybe don't enjoy the weather, and I'll see you next time on the AI Analyst. Take care, everybody. Bye, Ellie. Thanks.
Bye, Andy.